Once upon a time in the ancient land of Babylon, there was a king named Nebuchadnezzar. He was a powerful ruler, the kind of king whose name was whispered across every corner of the known world. His kingdom stretched far and wide, and his power seemed unshakable. But his story was not just one of glory. No, this is a tale of both pride and humility, of how a great king could rise to the heights of power, only to fall to the lowest depths. One night, Nebuchadnezzar had a dream. It was so vivid, so strange, that he couldn't shake it. In the dream, he saw a massive statue. Its head was made of gold, its chest and arms of silver, its belly and thighs of bronze, its legs of iron, and its feet of iron mixed with clay. Suddenly, a stone struck the feet of the statue, and it shattered, crumbling into dust, which the wind blew away. When he woke, Nebuchadnezzar was deeply troubled. He didn't understand the meaning of this dream. So he called for his wise men, his magicians, sorcerers, and astrologers. "Tell me the dream's meaning," he demanded. But these wise men had a challenge before them. He didn't even tell them the dream. How could they interpret it if they didn't know what it was? The king threatened to have them all executed, saying, "If you can't tell me the dream and its meaning, you'll be destroyed." Panic spread across the land. Among the many wise men was a young man named Daniel. He was a Jewish exile who had been brought to Babylon with his friends years before. He wasn't afraid of the king's threats, but he knew that only God could reveal the meaning of the dream. That night, Daniel prayed to God, asking for understanding, and God answered him. The next morning, Daniel rushed to the king to let him know that he can interpret the dream and its meaning. "It is not because of my own wisdom. It is because of God, who has shown me what you could not know on your own," he said. Nebuchadnezzar, surprised, listened as Daniel explained the dream. The statue represented the kingdoms of the world. Babylon was the golden head, followed by silver, bronze, iron, and finally the feet of iron and clay. But the stone that struck the statue represented God's kingdom, which would destroy all the earthly kingdoms and stand forever. The king was astonished by Daniel's wisdom and the interpretation. He honored Daniel and his God. But time has a way of inflating even the humblest heart, and Nebuchadnezzar's pride began to grow. Not long after, Nebuchadnezzar decided to build a massive statue, an image of gold, just like the one he had dreamed of. It stood 90 feet tall, gleaming in the sun. He ordered that everyone in his empire bow down to it, but there were some who refused. Daniel's three friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, stood firm. They would not worship an idol. No matter how powerful the king was, their loyalty was to God alone. Furious, Nebuchadnezzar ordered that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego be thrown into a fiery furnace. The flames roared so hot that even the soldiers who threw them in were consumed by the heat. But something miraculous happened. As the king looked into the furnace, he saw not 3 men, but 4. One of the figures looked like a divine being. The 3 men were unharmed. They walked in the fire with the 4th figure, who protected them from the flames. King Nebuchadnezzar was astonished, and his heart softened for a moment, but his pride was still lurking. He had been humbled, but the danger of arrogance was not over yet. Years passed, and the king's pride grew again. One day, Nebuchadnezzar looked out from the roof of his royal palace and said, "Is this not the great Babylon I have built by my own mighty power, for the glory of my majesty?" But even as the words left his mouth, a voice from heaven spoke, condemning King Nebuchadnezzar to insanity and to live like an animal, eating grass, until he acknowledges that God is the true ruler of all. And just as foretold, Nebuchadnezzar's mind was taken from him. He was driven away from his throne and lived in the fields, eating grass like an ox. His hair grew long, and his nails became like eagle's claws. After a time, Nebuchadnezzar's sanity returned to him. He looked up to heaven and acknowledged that God is the ruler of all the kingdoms of the earth. His reason was restored, and he praised the Most High. And with that, Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom was restored to him. But he was a different man. He was humbled, and he knew that it was God who had the true power. King Nebuchadnezzar's story teaches us a powerful lesson. Pride can lead to downfall, but humility before God leads to restoration. Even the most powerful ruler can fall if they forget the true source of their strength. We may not be kings, But we all have moments when our pride can blind us to what truly matters. It's a reminder to stay humble, to recognize the blessings we have, and to remember that our strength comes from something greater than ourselves.